Richardson interviewing Rashad Norris, special for the Seattle Medium. Hi, Rashad.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
So we're going to get into some of the things you've been doing in the community through your career, through your own business, and I kind of want to get into what encouraged you to take this route in your life. Now, you majored in communication with a minor in English. Your plan was to become a sports broadcaster. What happened, or where were you in your life where you ended up going into education and outreach?
I felt like I was always for that next person. You know, playing point guard on a basketball team, as a point guard, I'm always looking out the best interest of my teammates. So I felt like I was always there trying to improve somebody else's game or improve their situation. So I just think that that's innate in me to always want to improve somebody else. And then when I get to college and I see the lack of our young black and brown individuals, the students in these schools, I see that, you know, there's a need. There's a need for us to be out there promoting the importance of education. And I found my purpose, and my purpose was to give back and go and work with these youth. So I started my first outreach or my youth engagement jobs at the Boys and Girls Club as an athletic director at the Lakewood branch in Lakewood, Washington.
And then how did you go from Boys and Girls Club to becoming the director of engagement at Highline College?
Well, at the Boys and Girls Club, I was going to get my master's at Evergreen State College for public administration. And at that time, my obligations to the club and my obligations to school, it kind of conflicted. So I had to leave there, and upon me leaving the Boys and Girls Club, Fort Lewis Teen Center or their youth program, they got in contact with me, and I went over to their teen program and I helped run their teen program there on Fort Lewis. Wow. I worked with youth whose parents were over in Iraq and in the war. So these students were 14, 15, having to act like they're 22 to 30 years old, taking care of themselves. So they came to this center on a daily basis after school. They came during the weekend, and I ran a teen program out of there. And it was just a beautiful sight to see these individuals grow the way they had to grow in the midst of their parents or their guardians doing service for our nation. So after I'd done that, I had a chance to go work at Tacoma Goodwill after I got my master's. And Tacoma Goodwill, I was a manager of a program called STEPS, and it stood for Skills Training Employment Preparation Services. And that was where I helped youth who were homeless or displaced, and I helped them get resumes and cover letters ready for jobs. So I've done that. After I did that, after I received my master's, prior to me going to that job, I had an opportunity to move up to Highline Community College at that time, and I became the assistant director of outreach. And I did that job for like maybe 6 months to 8 months. My boss then moved into the director position in marketing communications, and then they promoted me to the director of outreach from there, and I've been there for now 9 years. And in the last 2 years, I got promoted to director of community engagement.
In the last decade or so, as you've been deep into the community engagement side of it, what's been your biggest challenge? What's been your biggest success?
Well, I would say, I always want to start with success, is that my department truly changed the game of doing outreach versus recruitment. We've provided more programming on campus for these students to come to that it is relevant to not only their culture, but to their liking as well. I would say that we also have included more of an outreach consistency where I'm going into these schools and I'm there on maybe 2 to 3 times a week with that same student and just giving them a consistent basis of a look of someone who really cares for their future.
Talk to us about the Black and Brown Summit.
Yes.
What is it and how did you come up with it?
So the Black and Brown Male Summit, we're on our 8th year. When I first came to the college, One of my capstone, which is my master's program, our ending project, was to put something together that would be self-sustaining in the community and that would be yours. So my capstone project at the Evergreen State College MPA program was my own mentoring male program. So I knew this has always been something I wanted to do. I actually put it in place at some middle schools here in Federal Way. And it's called HERO. And it stands for Honor Education and Respect Others. And this program was also in conjunction with my cousin at the time. Him and I came together, we put this program together, and we had it at Lakota Middle School, which was my founding middle school for my program, which is still withstanding, and we're on our 10th year now with each other. My kickback that I received from some of the counselors, that they didn't like the name Black and Brown. They wanted me to change it to like Minority Male Summit. Or they told me that their students didn't see color because they don't teach that at their school. So it didn't really resonate with them to go out there and talk to these young men, these young boys, about why this summit would be important to them.
People in your department?
Were the people at the school. Okay. At the school and at the locations that most of these young people were at, those adults who were overlooking or overseeing those students, they didn't have the ability to go out there and present this information to these students. So that was one of my biggest challenges, if not the biggest challenge. So on that day of the summit, I'm thinking we're gonna have a lot of kids. You know, I plan to have maybe 200 there. We had bought buses for the schools to bus the kids in, so transportation wouldn't be a problem. Another hurdle that I was told was it was on a weekend. So I was told that the students wouldn't come on a weekend because, you know, they're lazy and they wouldn't get up on a Saturday. So that was probably not a good idea. So they didn't really highlight the content that was going to be at this summit. They were too concerned with it being on a weekend, and the name of the summit itself was very intimidating for them to highlight to these young men. So the day of the summit started at 9 o'clock, 8:30 comes around, there's nobody there. 8:45 comes around, nobody there. 8:50, 8:55 comes around, there's a group of young men coming up on the college campus. I'm outside, I'm sweating, you know, I'm thinking like I did all this work, I got all my teammates together, we thought it's gonna be a good thing. We had a good speaker coming up, Luis Rodriguez, who wrote Always Running. He's an author from California that came up. We had books ready for the students, and they come, maybe 15, maybe 20 come to the first summit. Now, fast forward, every year, it got bigger and better. You know, that second year, I changed my outreach approach. This is what I started doing. I started going to these schools, and I asked these schools to give me pockets of young men that I can go and I can be a consistent physical being on maybe every other week, twice a month, 3 times a month, that I can go and sit with and just have discussions and topics and conversations with. And when I started doing that, my face started to be more visible. I started to be more visible at these schools. It was more consistency now being created. And now we're on our 8th year, and Candice, we're sitting at maybe 500, 550. One of our largest summits that we had was over 600 students on the college campus. This is, I have to say, I've been told that this is the first summit that has been done in Washington State, and maybe one of the largest on the West Coast. So it's been a beautiful thing just to see and be a part of. I have an awesome team. Our female summit, and I always got to bring this up because our females, I was going to these schools, and our females were just so excited to see these young men come back to the schools so amped up. So when I would go into the schools, they call me Brother Rashad, Brother Rashad, Brother Rashad. When's our summit coming up? And I said, baby girls, it's coming up. I got you. So my colleagues and I were now on our 5th year, and we called it Yale. and it stands for Young Educated Ladies Leading. And I was driving home one day, and I knew that my colleagues and I always wanted to put together a female summit. Driving home, and I'll pull over, and I'm talking to my baby girl on the phone. I had me a daughter, and she had this ability just to make some loud noises. And Yale came in my mind. And I just put the acronym together, and it's Young Educated Ladies Leading. And we're on our 5th year now. And we have over about 450 young women of color that come to the campus as well. And that is also on a Saturday. So just to say, we defied all the comments around Saturday conferences for our young people because they are showing up.
Right. So you never had to change the name. It was Black and Brown.
Nope.
And you kept it on a weekend.
Yep.
And your numbers have continued to grow. So the average 15, 16-year-old male or 15, 16-year-old female of color, what do they experience when they come to Black and Brown or Yale? What does the summit entail? It's a full day of events, I'm assuming. What do they get to experience when they're there?
Well, first, when they walk into the door, just to see their faces and just not truly just aware of how many of them are truly in one space at one time. And it's just beautiful to see. The sense of community is right off the bat.
What kind of changes or results have you seen in some of the young people who've taken part in Black and Brown or Yale?
So the number one change that I've seen in a lot of our young people who've taken part of this is the advocacy for themselves and a way of them now becoming more knowledgeable and being more empowered about who they are as young people of color, especially our young males. And they've really taken ownership on their own actions, not let somebody tell them that they have to go this route. They're now saying, I want to go this route, and this is what I'm going to do. And so, and also, one thing that I've seen is that they're truly using their network. I will go out and speak with other workshop presenters that have been a part of both conferences, and they would tell me that a young person have gotten in contact with them who attended one of the summits and really took heed to their conversation around maybe wanting or needing more additional information of a field or a career, and now they're getting in contact with them. And they're really taking ownership on understanding the importance of networking. And I'll also say that our numbers at Highline College have grown, and when you look at our students of color.
Are there any plans to take either summit outside of the Northwest or to spread it throughout the community, or is it something that is like an annual tent pole for you at Highline?
Well, I would tell you that I do have goals. And I know that in my mind, I would love to bring it down to Spanaway. I'm from that Spanaway area, and I know that a summit of that magnitude will do a great good deed for those students out there and that community out there that has grown more of a student of color population just because of a military bases and a gentrification of our students moving out there towards that Puyallup Spanaway area. So I know with such an empowerment conference that the summit that we have here, I know it would be a great service down there as well. So I do have plans to move it around the state for sure. If I can get it outside, so be it. But I know right now my primary focus is to see how we can get it moved around the state for our communities of color.
How has working in the field of education and outreach, you mentioned a little bit before about feeling unfulfilled in other jobs and other sectors. How has this field altered your perspective of, it's a three-part question, society, your community, and yourself?
The effects that it's having on me personally is it's making me check myself on what is it that I'm giving them that is helping them be ready for the higher ed, or even just be ready for the next levels that are coming after high school. So it's really checked me and making sure that I am just as balanced before I come see them than they are balanced before they come see me. And I think that, and when you start looking at, but I know that the effects that it has on the community that I serve and that I live in, it's a germ. So if I'm not fit personally to provide them with the balance, then that's going to spread. It's going to spread, and they're not going to be fit. So truly, I believe that anyone who's working with youth, you have to make sure that you are fit to do this work. And when you talk about society, when you talk about the society like effects that it has, well, I would tell you this. I would say that we have to do a better just an observation on how the self-identity and the community identity is truly affecting our society.
What advice would you give someone pursuing education, or who's maybe is already in the education sector, whose job it is to work with kids in the community or to do community outreach? What advice would you give them to help prepare them for that, besides being more open and more inclusive?
Go and really experience their experience. So if there are events and there's different activities that are going on in communities, I would say go and be present, not always having to go to give feedback or commentate, but just be present, and I would say be open to not being present and doing some of your own homework, and doing your own research. Because sometimes some areas or some places, some spaces are not for you. They're not for you. And you should be okay with that. And I would say that if it's not for you at that time, don't stop doing the research or trying to understand how you can be a part or be not only an advocate, but you can also be an accomplice in trying to make sure that you are truly behind change and truly behind inclusion for all students. And it's important that our white brothers and sisters and others who may not have that lens of inclusion for all students, it's important for you to really do some self-reflection on the biases and differences that you may have that you're bringing into that space. Because when you bring that to that space, you'll be amazed of the energy that is felt through your own personal nonverbals, because we feel it and the students feel it. It's something that our body is very keen to, and that goes back to our melanin and the substance in our body, that we are really keen to energy. And when you come in with the energy that you come in with, either it be your bias or your insensitivity around just understanding culture, we feel that. And so I would tell you, be more aware of that energy that you're bringing to the table. And if you have to check your energy, check it.
Can you touch on, so far with your experiences working with young people of color during the last, few months of this administration and certain policy changes, or maybe even what's gone on recently with Charlottesville? Has that had any effect in your immediate environment with young people? And then along those lines, I'd love to hear what your take is on the rescinding of DACA and how that might be affecting some of the young people of color, or some of the Latino students at Highline and in the middle schools and high schools you work with.
Well, I would say that our students they seem more aware socially right now. And I say that just because I will go into a lot of these schools, and you see more activism around these students around specific subjects and things that are going on. And I would say that our black student is truly affected by, especially our black males, truly affected by seeing so many of our men being, shot by not only just police, but just always being on TV somehow, some way with the justice system. You have more individuals that are now incarcerated, that are coming out of prison, who are trying to find themselves on our college campuses. So there's a lot of conversation around that incarceration complex that's going on. And then you have the racial conflicts with what happened in Charlottesville, and not just Charlottesville, but you have them here around schools. I know at the college we're at the forefront of a lot of conversations. So a lot of our student leadership programs, they're really highlighting all of these conversations on campus. So it really allows our students to be a part of a larger discussion. We bring a lot of speakers in that talk about certain situations. As far as the DACA and that effects that it has on our students, we have 70% students of color on our campus. I want to say at least 30% or 25% of those students are Latino Hispanic students in our current students of color population, and that's a high percentage for our students. You ask the effects that it has on our students, that has an emotional effect. You got students going to school that don't know how long they're going to be going to school. How do you truly ask a student to write a paper or be present in school when you also want them to be present at their home when they're worried about a family member, father, mother, cousin, niece, nephew, cousin, whoever that they have to worry about, who may not be here these next couple hours?
What is relevant engagement, and how does it affect some of these things that you're talking about with young people in the community?
Well, the Relevant Engagement is my Relevant Engagement LLC is my personal consultant business that I created that allows me to do some work outside of the job and my duties at Highline College. One of my jobs that I have right now are community engagements that I have right now with Relevant Engagement is working with our imprisoned youth population. I contract with a local service where they help our imprisoned youth re-engage with the community that they came from. And I do a life enrichment class with these youth. And it's been a joy. It's been a great experience. I've learned so much for these young people. And I go in and I go every other Sunday, and I have a curriculum that I use, and we talk about the importance of reading. Not just reading from a book, but just understanding how to read your environment. What does it mean to truly read nonverbals, and for them to understand their own personal nonverbals that they're going to be, that others are going to see just because of the background that they're coming, the baggage that they're coming out with. So they have to just understand that there's going to be some looks that's going to be coming towards them, and how do they emotionally just really become more aware of their triggers that they may receive from those biases that they're going to be receiving from the community, and just really getting them to understand the importance of emotional intelligence, and how do they really have control over their emotional outburst, and really just be intelligent enough to make decisions that it is going to be positive in that next step. And it's been good. I'm on my third group now, and I would say that these young men that are coming out of these institutions, they truly have had time to really think about their decisions that got them there. Now, the challenge that I see that I'm having with them is I don't get to see them when they go back into their community. So how consistent is the message that I just gave them? How consistent is it compared to the message that they're going to be receiving when they get out? And who are they going to interact with when they get out? And my only hope and my only, but what I'm trying to get them to understand is that, your social environment plus the motivation that puts you in that social environment plus the value that you receive from that is going to equal to your behavior, what you're about to do. And you have to be ready for that. So your social environment, you have to be ready that you're putting yourself in a social environment that is positive and is going to give you a positive return and a positive step towards your next goals.
Is there anything else you might want to say that you do? I think this is a great example. Or do you want to talk about your plans for it or what people can expect in the community as it relates to it?
Well, I would just say that I'm just getting started. I've created some great partnerships. One is with Brand New World. So I've created some other partnerships with other nonprofits that are allowing me to be a part of the work that they're trying to do within the community. And it's just beginning. And I'm just excited to see where not only relevant engagement goes, but just all the partnerships that I've created up until this point where we're going to go. One thing that I'm putting together that I can share is I'm writing my book. I have a book in mind, and I know that one of my goals is to get this done by mid-year next year, 2018. I have to say that I'm excited to see my youngins. I have three kids, so I have 2 boys and a girl. So whatever I do, I just do it, knowing that they're at the house and they see their father. And I tell people all the time that this work is very difficult because I know that I put so much energy in these communities when I do this work and with the young people. But most importantly, I have to make sure that my energy is just as much or even more when I go back home to work with my own kids. They're getting 120% from me on a daily basis. So that's for Isaiah, Isaac, and Micah. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.